Hello, friends. Hmm.
It's
Gets
spring.
yeah, yeah, and we're doing this inside again because
It's so
the
windy.
wind here in the spring is
Very,
yeah,
very incredible. Yeah.
maybe a lot of the time
Well, we live on a
we
ridge.
get
We've
we get
had
a lot
this
of wind.
talked about
Yes,
this before. It's always windy on a
yeah.
ridge. Not always, but it's windy today. Yeah. So here we are, cozy inside.
Am I starting this with a story?
Yeah, well, I was saying it's spring, and that means, of course,
Oh, robins.
yeah, and all sorts
Yes.
of other things, but a lot of robins, a lot of birds.
And the birds are. I feel like a lot of them are migrants. They're coming up, and who knows where they've come from. But for instance, some will be at our feeders, and I feel like they're not very aware of maybe the hawk predator or where the windows are or other things. They're more susceptible to some
Yeah.
dangers. And of course, it's mating season, so
Nobody's thinking about
they're
anything
being a
else.
little irrational. Yeah. All this leads up to I was driving recently. We just had two forest monks come for 3 months, which we're super excited about. And I was going to a nearby city to pick them up. And I was driving in such a way where my mind was very goal or task oriented. I actually started the drive really well. I was talking with divine mother, as I sometimes do when I'm driving alone, and but I had to be there at a certain time, and I let that start to take over my mind. And I was driving down this long, lonely country road, and suddenly 3 robins flew out. Somebody was giving chase to somebody, and who knows what exactly the dynamics were, but the third one, it came right out towards my car. The third one smacked into the car. It was a
Mm.
hard hit. And I looked in the rearview mirror, and it was one of those times when you feel like this animal's clearly dead. And it was
Mm.
just a pile on the ground with one wing sticking up. It had been a loud bump. I drove onward, I'm going to say half a mile, maybe even a mile, just saying, okay, oh, of course I'm feeling terrible about this, but it happened, nothing I can do about it, and I've got to be to this place on time. And I started thinking, if that was somebody's pet, would I have stopped? Well, yeah, then I would have stopped, even if I was going to be
Mm.
late.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, if this was a human, I would have stopped.
Yeah. Mm.
Why am I not stopping? Just to make sure that this robin is
Mm.
dead or there's not some way I can help. And there had to be this decision that said the things of the world, being there on time. It felt important to be there on time. These are, they're coming to our school. I'm picking them up at the train station. One is from far across the seas,
Mm.
and this
Yeah.
is, her first time in the United States. But I stopped the car, turned around, and went back. And I know that road. I knew exactly where I had hit the bird. So went up and slowed down as I came to the place. And there was no bird there.
Mm.
And I actually went on to the next hill to make sure I wasn't somehow mistaken. No bird. So I turned around and continued on my way. Interestingly, the world then arranged itself. The train was about a half hour late.
Did you see it on the side of the road or
It's
anything?
not on the side of the road, no.
Uh, hmm.
And I just was kind of left feeling, who knows? There's lots of rational, linear explanations for that. Soon after I hit the bird, it was still fluttering, let's say, and a hawk swooped down and got it that happened to
Mm-hmm.
be nearby. Or a crow came down and picked it up. The, the not rational explanation is that, for me, in my mind, was that when I tuned back into what was important, the world seemed to rearrange itself a little bit, as if I hadn't hit the bird, or it was very quickly taken by somebody who could use it as food, or it I judged wrongly and it survived and it somehow flew off. And then, of course, after that, as I said, the train was half hour late. So I think you and I have found over and over again that it kind of matters what we choose, and not, this is almost the opposite of last time where we said you've got to choose the right thing. It's not about choosing the right thing, but starting to make choices from our best place, and also from, I feel like, from a place of faith, in the sense of we've had so many experiences with Divine Mother seeming to rearrange the world, that we can feel pretty safe at this point, I feel like, and secure, saying, okay, let's make a choice that is going to have these consequences if the world works in a linear cause and effect way. But then the train is late, and I didn't have to be there on time. I could have driven much more slowly. I could have gone back for 5 robins. I mean, it's almost magical what we're talking about. But it has to do with how you.
Yeah, I think kind of the bottom line, the essence of what you're talking about, is that there is a Maya to the world, kind of I think of Maya as more than just an illusion or a veil, but as something that enchants us, and that maybe we get kind of starry-eyed, not necessarily in a good way, but in believing that this is how things work, this is what's important. And it's that, connecting the dots always. First, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and I need to pick these people up at this time, and that's very important. And you need to make sure you dress like this so you can make a good impression. It's really important to get this job so that you can, do this, or get these grades so you can get into this school. And those things begin to be prioritized over things that are happening in our world. Oh, that woman could use help. That's really heavy. I'm strong. I could help her take that to her car. Oh no, well, but then I might not make it on time, or I might feel uncomfortable. Oh, my child just asked me, they want to share something with me, but I need to make dinner because we need to get out the door. We start to push away, in a way, and turn our gaze from the world that's actually unfolding all around us. And I guess I'm a believer, from experiences I've had in my life, that the more that I tune into the world that I am can engage with right as it's happening, the more joy that I feel, the more connected I actually feel. And that, again, I'm kind of a recovering perfectionist. So I'm very strongly in the organizational logistics category. Get this done, make sure we're not late, all of that. I can see that is it's almost like a drug, in a way, that really draws you in so much and makes you think it's the only thing, that I understand also how challenging it is to believe that kind of the overlay of our modern structure, of the way we've organized things, we can begin to think that that's reality. And that's the only way we should function, when I think maybe some of the other way, mostly doing it the other way, probably fills us up more and allows us to actually make decisions that feel really good to us, that make a difference in other people's lives. So the key is how to notice when you're in that place, and how to take a leap and connect, to go back for the robin, if you will, when there is in fact something really important that needs to be done. What do you think?
feel like you're speaking to, okay, in a way, we could just say we can't really tell how the world works. We can, different people look at the world and say, okay, everything is fated, or what I think affects how things are, or the world is completely mechanical and linear. And the world seems to kind of work in the way that each person believes, so that their belief
Mm.
gets reinforced.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what I've observed. Yeah.
Well, we
And
know that we will often find what we're looking for.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, we'll sift through evidence, find what we're looking for. And so, I know there's been times when we will have a dream or think of something the next day or yesterday, and then the next day it happens,
Mm.
and we sometimes look at each other and say, "Wow, that's such a powerful coincidence." It almost seems like either our thought made it happen, or did we, is the world kind of fated, Fated, and we are having a premonition or knowing
Mm-hmm.
what's happening before it happens. And if, in a weird way, we can free ourselves up and say, okay, maybe I step back from all those and say to myself, probably whichever of those things I choose, I'm going to find evidence to prove my point. That's
Mm.
what humans are good at. So I know I'm going to do the same thing. So what if we just get playful with things? And I think that's kind of what you're speaking to there, is that we can get playful. We can try different hats on, try different explorations and see, okay, what happens if I imagine that reality works like this?
Mm.
If we try, if we can step out of our set belief and try some other beliefs out in that
Mm-hmm.
sense, we can start to see, okay, man, maybe it's less about a world out there that has
Mm.
strict rules, and it's more about me just filtering
Yeah.
through things. But we also might find that the world starts to seem to behave differently, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm saying the same thing here, but for us, the world at this point, it definitely behaves differently than when we thought of it in a more mechanical way. And that's not an unusual experience that I had the other day,
Right.
where I make a decision that feels right in my heart, and then things turn out
Yeah.
differently. And again, the world rearranges itself in a
Yeah.
weird way,
Yeah, we've
or
had
seems to.
a number of different cases, even to the point of that doesn't seem possible. You know, that just doesn't seem possible. Uh, but
There's
I,
really a laundry list of them, right? I
but
mean,
I like to think sometimes. I always tell the girls, use your imagination to make life more fun. So instead of using your imagination to picture worst case scenarios, etc., use it to decide that you're gonna try something out imagination wise that's gonna make life really interesting and playful. And so I like to use my imagination to picture Divine Mother as everything, and she's kind of like this great storyteller, writer. And if you and I were going to tell a story or write a book, we could make anything happen that we wanted. We literally could rewrite anything, and we could bring in characters that the main character never even knew existed, and we could, through creative ways, make it super believable. Um, or, they always say truth is stranger than fiction, and I think that's actually true. And so I like to remember that Divine Mother, if I'm truly following the path I think is right, that's coming from my heart and from the world around me, and I maybe have to do something, but I am going to take the time to sit down with my child for, how much longer is it going to take? If they want to share something with me, literally, is it going to be 5 hours? Probably not. Can I spare 5 minutes? Probably. But aside from that rational thinking, the more that I do that sort of a thing, the more that Divine Mother gets delighted with me kind of going along with her story, that she'll be like, hey, Why not? Let's make the train half an hour late. It'll be perfect. It'll be stranger than fiction, And I like that idea because my human brain, if I'm going to choose something like that, something that is important to my heart but doesn't fit in with the modern structure of what is important, um, I like to. Oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought. Totally, 100%.
Because of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Wi-Fi.
yeah. I was like, oh,
I got the wrong
Mirabai.
guy.
So wait, what was I talking about? It was really important, so hopefully I won't mess it up. Um, oh well.
Okay, watch. It's gonna come right back to me. So just forget about it.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm so sorry, but I'm a human being. Oh, humans. Okay. So our human mind, we always want to figure everything out. So if in the case of going back for the robin or stopping to hear what my child has to share with me for 5 minutes, I am going to go, oh, but how will I make that work? What are you going to, how's the world going to,
no way.
Right. That's why I like to imagine I don't have to worry about it. Divine Mother's got it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so that's the main reason why I like to picture Divine Mother as kind of the great storyteller, because it's not, I can assure that little brain of mine that just wants to figure everything out. I'm like, this isn't your area. You get to just go and be with your child. Yeah.
It's a big part of this path, any mystical path, is stepping back and recognizing that we don't have the level of control that we think. Having Divine Mother be that story writer, it allows you, and it's not just when we say not control, a lot of us, of course, our ego will seize up and go, oh, wait, I've got to control things. Remembering that Divine Mother can have a not, how am I saying this? Good things can happen too. So you can hear about a friend that has terminal cancer, and Divine Mother can rewrite that story. And that person might go into remission. And I'm thinking about our family member's son who got cancer of the throat, which is,
yeah,
you're pretty done. And went through treatment. It wasn't just a spontaneous remission, but just has been cancer free. And I remember physicians I know saying, there's no, a year at the most.
I mean, if we're talking about that, I remember going into the creamery that we used to go to get some sharp aged cheddar cheese. And we said to the woman at us, hey, how's it going today? And she was like, I'm fabulous. It's just an amazing day. And she was just so bright and bubbly. And Kenton, of course, he's always going, talking to people. It's like, oh, thanks for your attitude. It's just so wonderful, like it's so great to see people smiling. And she said, every day is a good day for me because my husband is still alive. And she told us the story about how her husband had an illness, and there was a procedure, and it was like a 5% chance that he would make it. And they were like, well, that's all we can do is try it. And he was one of the 5%, and he's alive and healthy. And she was just like, that's all I need, And so it is important to allow, and that's why Divine Mother being the storyteller, she can do anything. If I have to leave it up to me, I'm still going to try to fit it into these parameters. But she can do anything, especially if she is everything. And I think that's just an important element, is to free our brain a little bit, give it more space for the creativity, more space. Our quote job is to be present, is to live in the story and love the people and the experiences and the things around us. Honestly, when we go to bed at night, when I do at least, I often think of all the things I didn't get done. Oh, and I still need to do that. Oh, and I never called that person. And oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? But I wonder what our culture would be like and what my life would feel like if I went to bed and I thought, okay, maybe that didn't get done. But you know what? I went for a walk with my girls today and we looked at bluebirds sitting on the bluebird house. And I, did this, where I took this bath and I really nourished myself. Or, Kenton and I got a chance to work on a project that we really have been setting aside for a long time. Or even just, I took a moment to notice the clouds today. It gives you a different feeling, and it kind of reminds us our life is what we make it. We've talked about that before. It's one of the reasons I really like having forest monks here, is because they begin to extract themselves from, I call it like an overlay, but it's almost like a cage that we become caged in and we can't free out of. And I feel as though forest monks free out of that overlay of appointments and this and that. And it's not that we can't live in a world where we have to have an appointment or 10, or we have someplace we need to go, but it's understanding the priority of those things and what kind of is essential is different than that.
So I think I'm gonna propose a challenge for people, which is to try on a different way of imagining how the world unfolds. The cool thing is that, let's say you have a very mechanical view and this all sounds like woo-woo. In trying it on, nothing bad's going to happen to you. You're not going to get lost in woo land, or all you're going to do is learn something about yourself. Because we do really have a discerning, curious nature about ourselves. When we try on a different way of doing things, we may learn something about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And
if maybe at the very least how entrenched we are in our way that we look at the world.
Yes, yeah. Often we will give something a try, but we'll know inside we're not really giving it a try.
Yeah, and then we'll look for all the reasons why our way is the right way.
And then some little voice in our head might go, oh yeah, it's kind of true maybe that we humans just, doesn't matter what we believe, we always find a reason to believe it.
Mm-hmm. So this is a proposal to really try it.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to feel weird, right?
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to, I don't know, look dorky.
But imagine the Divine Mother's writing the story of your life, and that she, just as if you were writing a story, nothing is impossible for you to shift or change in that story. Nothing. You can do whatever you like. And that you are partially that writer, but not in the sense of your ego trying to control things. You're the writer, or part of the story, almost more in the sense of as if you were there as the person is writing the story, and you're going, oh, wouldn't it be neat if this? And they say, that gives me an idea. And then something comes out, which still may not be exactly what you thought. It may be a surprise, but the story is co-woven by you when we are being playful, curious, checking things out. That's what we're proposing you try on as a little challenge. And just see what it's like. See if life seems to behave differently.
Yeah. Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, feel free to share stories too. I'm sure you probably have some of times when you chose something that didn't seem like it fit in with what you should be doing and life rearranged itself for you. I'd be curious.
Love to you all, friends.
Thanks for joining us.